drugs. Yeah, please.
Thank you, sir. On the additional money for small
I meant you, but that's okay. Go ahead. We'll do this.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
On the additional money for small business, apparently Treasury Secretary Mnuchin speaking with the Democrats in Congress.
Yeah.
Are you allowing?
Are you talking about the new?
On the new $250 billion.
$250.
Are you willing to give into the Democratic demands for additional money for hospitals, states, and cities in that interim round?
I'd rather have that be in phase 4. I don't deny it. I think it's fun, but I think it should be in phase 4, and I think we should have infrastructure, and I think we should have a payroll tax moratorium, because that's something that over a period of time the workers get. Sort of semi-immediately. It's over that period of time. It starts immediately, but it's over a period of time. I mean, there are a lot of people, I'm one of them, that would have liked to have seen the payroll tax cut as a permanent cut. But we should do the double-edged, meaning business, employee payroll tax cut. So we're talking about that. And I'm certainly okay with helping the states and helping the hospitals. I just think, because, look, the hospitals need help. You see what they've gone through. And the states need help. Some states in particular need help. They need big help. I'm willing to look at that very strongly, but I like looking at it in phase 4. The 251 is actually, the plan is working out well. The banks are getting started with the distribution. They've taken thousands and thousands of applications. The numbers aren't even believable, the number of applications. They're swamped, but Bank of America and Wells Fargo, and I guess Citibank is just now kicking in. And also, what nobody's talking about, the commercial banks, the community banks. Everyone's talking commercial banks. The community banks are doing tremendous volumes, and they're probably doing them faster from what I understand. I hear the community banks, frankly, are the easiest ones in terms of getting the money out. So the money is getting out. The applications are far beyond what we ever anticipated, and that's why we're going, because this is money that goes essentially to the workers. We want the businesses to hold on to their workers, because once they lose the workers, they're never opening again. It's not going to happen. Okay, in the back.
Sir, Gordon Lewell from Wall Street Journal. I wonder if you could expand a little bit on your the form that Mexico would take, the reimbursements. Like, what form would that take? You essentially add it to the tab for the wall that you mentioned. And I have a second question by Matt.
Well, there's no real cost, because we're agreeing to produce a little bit less. So number one, it's staying in the ground. You have it for another day. It's actually cheaper than storing it, where you take it out and you deliver it to a massive well, like the strategic reserves, our national strategic reserves, where it has to be brought there. And that's, an expensive process in itself. But oil is getting to a point where, there are some areas, some people would say the water is more valuable than the oil. You never thought you were going to see that. You never thought, having covered, I know you cover it, you never thought you'd be seeing oil at $20 a barrel, but how about $10 a barrel? That you never thought you'd see. So we are looking at it very strongly. There is no real cost. I was helping I want to help Mexico out. We have a great relationship with Mexico, great relationship with the president. I really like him a lot. He's been terrific to us on the border, because he stopped. You don't see the caravans coming up anymore. You don't see all the problems. When I took office, it was unbelievable what was going on. And they have been helping us a lot, and we've been helping them a lot. They make product for us, they sell it to us, and it's fine. It's a good relationship. And sometimes it's a great relationship. So he could not have done any more than that. And I think there was political reasons for that for him, that other nations don't have. They don't have that. The nations that we're talking about, the 22 other nations that we're talking about, they just don't have that problem. So it doesn't cost us anything, and yet it's very valuable. We will be reimbursed in the future, maybe in the near future, maybe in the more distant future, but we'll be reimbursed by Mexico in a certain way, and it'll be fine. But we get Mexico over the hump. Now, with all of that being said, that doesn't mean the deal's going to happen anyway, because they still have a lot of different states. But this was one of the stumbling blocks. Okay, go ahead.
If I may, China and some other countries have been particularly active, seen as maybe taking advantage of the U.S. during this process, during this period. China particularly active in the South China Sea, got a carrier down, obviously. What's your message to some of these adversaries and competitors?
Well, look, the way I view it is this. China has taken advantage of the United States for 30 years, okay? I mentioned the World Trade Organization. China has taken advantage of us through that and using rules that are unfair to the United States, and this should have never been allowed to happen. When China joined and was allowed to join under those circumstances, the World Trade Organization, that was a very bad day for the United States because they had rules and regulations that were far different and far easier than our rules and regulations. Plus, they took advantage of them down to the last. And you know China and you study China and you know what I mean. They took advantage of them like very few people would even think to take advantage of them. And again, they are considered, right, a developing nation. We are not considered a developing nation. They're given advantages. Okay. For many years, China has ripped off the United States. And then I came along. And right now, as you know, China's paying 25%. And we've taken in billions and billions and billions of dollars in tariffs from China. And I know a lot of the people kept saying, oh, no, we're paying. Well, we're not paying. You know, countries are different. Not every country is China. But China would devalue their currency and they'd also pour out money. And they essentially were paying most of those tariffs, not us. And as you know, we've taken in tens of billions of dollars. They targeted our farmers. But we took in so much money that I was able to give back. One year was 12 billion, one year was 16 billion. I was able to give back our farmers the money that they were targeted, hurt. China bought 12 billion and bought 16 billion. 1 year 12, 1 year 16. I was able to give them back to 12 and then give them back to 16, the farmers. And they weren't targeted, and they're all in business. Now we're doing it because they got targeted in a different way. Now I'm going to be very interested to see. So we signed a deal with China. And under that deal, they're supposed to buy substantially in excess of $200 billion from us. That's not only farm product, it's manufacturing product, it's lots of different things. They're going to buy a lot. I just want to see if they live up to that deal. I know President Xi, I would say he would live up to the deal. But remember this, I never took off the tariff. It's still 25%. That's how big, 25% of $250 billion. So for the first time, and you saw also, now again, I'm going before the virus hit, because that's sort of like, let's start all over again. Okay, I can't tell you that yet, because that chapter hasn't been written yet. But go up a few weeks ago, the deficit with the United States and China was coming way down. Nobody's seen that. Nobody's ever seen that before. But the deficit has come way down. So now we start a new chapter. And I can only tell you, if a smart person is standing where I'm standing, we're going to do very well with China. Okay? And I think I have to also say this. I think our relationship and having the relationship I have with China is a good thing. But for the first time, we're benefiting instead of being the sucker that could, that got taken advantage for years. Nobody. I said to China, how did this ever happen? I got to know him very well. I said to him, representatives of China at the top level, you know who I'm talking about. I say, how did this ever happen? They looked at me and they said, but nobody ever called us. We didn't have a deal. It's not like we had a bad deal. We had worse. We didn't have any deal at all. So they just took advantage. Think of it, $500 billion a year deficit. Not 500 million's a lot of money, right? It's not, everyone thinks I made a mistake when I say 500 trillion. No, you mean 500 million. No, I said $500 billion a year deficit with China for a long time. But it was 200, it was 300, it was 400, it was 500, 556 billion, 507, $500 billion plus a year deficit with China. Now I'm charging them tariffs. And it's very interesting. A lot of people that don't want to do that, they all agreed, because China has taken advantage of this country like nobody has ever taken. We have built China with the money we gave them. Now, I give them a lot of credit, okay? I give them a lot of credit. They did it. But you know what? We made it a hell of a lot easier. We gave them a fortune. Go ahead. How about you in the back? Yes.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'm Deborah Saunders with the Las Vegas Review-Journal, and I'm here today as a print reporter, a print puller. So
Yeah.
I'd like to ask you a question and then ask a question from one of the reporters who couldn't be here because of social
Sure, go
distancing.
ahead.
Thank you.
A little louder, please.
Thank you. I was wondering if you have been tested for antibodies if you've taken the antibody
Have I been
test.
tested for it?
Yes.
Not that I know of, I've had some tests.
Does
No?
anybody else here?
They
been
tell me
tested?
no, I'll
Has
accept
anybody
it.
else in the task force been tested for antibodies?
We don't have a testing.
You don't have the test?
That'll come out, they've just developed those tests, sort of new.
Okay, good to know. So this question is from Andrew Feinberg with Newsweek. A significant amount of federal aid was made available to Boeing in the recently signed CARES Act relief package. But according to sources, Boeing executives are still planning a round of layoffs. So should Boeing or any company that accepts federal aid to stay in business during this pandemic be penalized for laying off workers after doing so?
Yeah, well, the aid hasn't been given yet, but they will be asking, in my opinion. They haven't even asked yet. Boeing has not asked for aid yet, but I think they probably will. Now, at the same time, they do have to run a company. You know, this isn't a great time to sell airplanes. Let's not kid ourselves, okay? If you're a business person, Boeing makes airplanes. They had a big problem with one, but they make the greatest airplanes. They make the best airplanes in the world. They had the problem with one. They got it too complex. It becomes so complex. You have to be number one in your class at MIT to be able to fly it. It's a mistake. Every 2 years, they want to make it more and more. I mean, they had great success with the 737, the Boeing 737. Then all of a sudden they do the MAX and they say, let's make it more complicated. Let's put on different engines. Let's do this, let's do that. It was not exactly a good decision, bad decision, very bad, horrible decision. Number one, human lives, and number two, horribles what's happened to the company. Here's a company, from a business standpoint, was like probably the greatest company in the world, in my opinion. I think it amounts to 1% of GDP. Some people say it's a half. I think it's 1. But here's one of the greatest companies anywhere in the world, maybe the greatest. And boom. Now, on top of what happened there with the 2 planes, and they say they have that fixed. That's good. They say they have it fixed undisputably. In fact, somebody said, they gave me something. I said, you should say it that way. They said, sir, this is now the safest airplane in the air. I said, that's what you should say. That's a very good statement. It's the safest airplane in the air. That's a very good statement. You should use it. I said, by the way, you're changing the name? But whether you do or not, you should use that. But he said that. A Boeing person said to me, it's the safest airplane in the air. That's a great thing. But we know they're going to need help. Now, does that mean they're going to need help and they should keep people that they absolutely don't need? That business is a very cyclical business, like many businesses, frankly. So that determination hasn't made. They have not spoken to us yet. I think they will be. Maybe they won't need help. That'll be great. Look, Boeing made so much money. Who would have thought they could have made all of those planes that are parked all over the place? In many cases, I guess payments not made. But who would have thought they could do that and they're still a solvent company? Okay? I mean, what a tragic thing happened in numerous ways, but also economically. So when they see us, making sure that Boeing is strong again is very, very powerful and very important, and we'll do whatever is necessary to do. Please.
Thank you. I have a quick one and then a longer one. First of all, have you had a chance?
Should we keep this going, everybody? Huh?
You're the president.
Jim wants to leave. No. Keep it going for a while, yes? I mean, we have time if you want. You're not going to criticize me that the conference was too long? You know, if I leave short, yesterday I left short. It was too short. If I stayed too long, they said it was too long. Someday we're going to get it just right. Okay. Should we continue? Should we continue? Yes?
Well, at least answer my questions. Yeah.
Okay, let's, at least for your question.
Have you had a chance to speak
It's not a bad point.
have you had a chance yet to speak to Boris Johnson since he came?
I have not. No, I have a call just to wish him well to his group. No, I don't want to be calling him now. I want him to get better. He's a great guy. He's become a friend of mine, real friend of mine. You know, he has a great feeling for our country. Obviously for his country, he loves it. He's a tremendous guy.
Slightly more complicated.
He's
point.
become, I think he's probably right now, he was very high to start. I think he might be 100% popularity right now. I think he's, you know, they talk about approval polls, right? You ever hear that term? I'm sure you never heard that. I hear it all the time. His approval rating must be about 300%. But he's a great guy. He was a great guy before, and I think people see what he's been through. What he's been through is incredible. And they say a big turn. So let's see what happens. Let's hope.
And if I may, where do you see the use of something like immunity certificates or documents or passports when we get to
Something like, excuse me?
immunity certificates? Once we get to antibody testing, whether this will be a useful way.
Well, I see a
getting
lot
back
of,
to work.
I see a lot of different things. We're gonna be very careful for who comes into the country. Look, my opposition party wants to have open borders. This is a case where I'm very glad that my position is I don't want open borders. I want very strong borders. That includes not only on the southern border, our southern border with Mexico, and you could also say our northern border with Canada. But we want to have strong borders. And I think this is maybe one of the learning points. We learned something about borders. We need borders. The country needs borders to be a great country. And I think this is a great point. Go ahead, do you have something else?
Yeah, I wasn't just thinking about that for borders. I just thought for ordinary Americans who are currently stuck at home, if they're tested for antibodies, it turns out they've had the disease and therefore shouldn't be infected again. Some sort of documentation that would allow them to go back to work safely.
You mean once they get better?
Yeah, or people who might not.
Okay, so they have the disease, and they're better, and they have the immunity now. They have, supposedly, according to what I'm hearing, it could be for a long period, could be for a lifetime, it could also be for a year or two, I'm hearing, Tony. So nobody's told me yet if it's for a year, if it's for 2 years, or if it's for a lifetime. Like chicken pox. They say if you have chicken pox, you have immunity. They say for a lifetime. I hope that's true. But nobody's actually told me with certainty, maybe because they don't know yet. You don't know yet. Because it's new. You know, this came upon us. Nobody knew. They do know you have it for a period of time. And it's strong for a period of time. They don't know. That's hence the antibodies that we're making. I saw somebody who was really sick, and he got better. A young person, relatively young person, 35, and physically fit, and he got better. He made it, barely, but he made it. His first thing that he did when he was better is, I want to give whatever I can give to help other people, because nobody should go through it. It's a tough thing. So we don't know yet how long, if you'd like to add anything to that, but we don't know yet, is it a year? It will be a year, but is it more than a year? And only time is going to tell, okay? Thank you.
Just one more question.
Go ahead, try one more.
Will you have governors, mayors, members of Congress on the Open the Country Council that you talked about?
Yeah, I think so. I think we're going to put some governors. I've gained great respect for governors, both Republican and Democrat. I've actually become friends with some of the Democrat governors that I wouldn't have really had the privilege of getting to know. And Governor Murphy of New Jersey is a very liberal guy. I'm not, but we've had a great relationship. John Bell, as you know, I call him John Bell, but John Bell Edwards, people call him John Bell. Sort of a cool name. From Louisiana, I have a very good relationship with him. Gavin Newsom, honestly, I think we've fighted ever. Hey, we're fighting right now. I want automobiles to be made cheaper and safer and stronger, but you save $3,000-4,000 per auto, and environmentally equal, or better maybe. And we're fighting on that. We're fighting a lot of different things. We fight on the border. He wants open borders. I want people to come into our country illegally. But I've gotten very friendly with Gavin Newsom. He's done a very good job here. I think I've gotten very friendly. I mean, he's been, I think, sort of a friend of mine for a long time. Don't get to see him much, but Governor Cuomo of New York would talk all the time. I told you, I spoke to him literally the last call just before walking in here. I've really developed a lot of good friendships with the governors, and including the governors. I think Mike DeWine, Republican, but I think he's done a great job in Ohio. So yeah, I want to put on both parties. I want to have some governors. I'm not going to have all of the governors, but I'd like to put some representative governors on the council. Yes, I would like to do that.
Any to serve? Yes.
I have. I've asked a couple of them. They've all said yes. So far, everyone said yes. I think everybody would like to be on that council. That's a very important council. Go ahead in the back. You haven't gone yet.
Thank you, Mr. President. 2 questions, if I may. Do you have a message to those pastors who are still planning to have Easter services, defying the public health guidelines?
Well, so you're going to have to say it louder. To those what?
To those pastors who are still planning to have Easter services in person.
Pastors who
Oh,
are
the pastors. I
defying-
didn't understand your word. Okay, you have a very nice voice, but it's a little bit low and you're far back. I've had talks with the pastors, and most of the pastors agree. And it's a very complex subject, let's face it, for the obvious reasons. I don't have to go into it. Most of the pastors agree that they are better off doing what they're doing, which is distancing. They feel that let's get this over with, and they want to get back to church so badly. I mean, can you imagine we have Easter Sunday, and I'm going to be watching Pastor Robert Jeffress, who's been a great guy. Did I tell you? He's been a great guy, and I'm going to be watching on a laptop. Now, a laptop is not the same as being in his church or being in another church. It's not. No matter what you say, you don't get to say, oh, isn't it wonderful? But I've done this for 3 weeks, and they've had tremendous, I let people know who it is. They've had the biggest audiences they've ever had. They have millions of people now watching, and people are really liking what they're hearing. So I'm going to be with, on Easter, Pastor, I don't even know if he knows it yet, but he will soon. I think he will in about 2 minutes. Pastor Robert Jeffress, and he's a terrific guy, a terrific man. I've gotten to know him very well. He's a man of great compassion. He loves our country, and I'm going to be with him on Easter, meaning I'm going to be with him watching on a laptop. Doesn't sound good, but it's one of those things. It cannot be church. I'm not going to get into it. It cannot be church. Most pastors and most people, of faith, people that we listen to and respect and admire. Franklin Graham is a person I have great respect for. Most people will, and who's done an incredible job in New York on Central Park, where they put up Samaritan's Purse. He's done an incredible job. The son of the late, great Billy Graham. His family is incredible. He's incredible. Franklin Graham